Your truck's engine is the heart of your truck. It's so important to get the right engine. So let's take a look at the major factors to consider to help you determine which truck diesel engine is right for you. You need to consider the type of work your truck will be doing. What is the average load weight that you'll be pulling? What type of terrain will you be running? What type of trailer? How many axles will you be pulling? And remember, when choosing your engine, it will also determine the driveline and rear end specs that you'll need to make this thing work properly. Times have changed. Back in the day, it used to be considered that the more horsepower, the bigger the engine, the better it was. But the industry has changed. Back then, fuel was less than $1 a gallon. These days, the fuel average is over $4 a gallon, over $5 a gallon on the West Coast. So fuel consumption has become a primary concern. Now, the engine manufacturers have kept up with this and now produce 13-liter engines that can generally produce enough horsepower for most applications. You don't need to spec a 15-liter or a 16-liter engine anymore for most applications. The 13 liters are highly advantageous because they're lighter, they're cheaper to buy, and they can be dialed up or down for different horsepower requirements. Resale value is also something that you need to consider when purchasing your truck engine. Now, for better or for worse, most truck manufacturers now offer particular driveline and engine specs that you can go with, and for better or for worse, this will help you choose or eliminate the type of truck engine you want to buy. For instance, if you want a Detroit engine, Freightliner owns Detroit. So if you really want Detroit, you're going to get a Freightliner. PACCAR owns both Kenworth and Pete. So if it's a PACCAR engine you want, you've got to choose one of these two truck models for your purchase. Cummins seems to be available in damn near everything. As a single owner operator, your costs, however, are paramount. Now, while most manufacturers may offer a driveline spec to go with the engine that you choose, be careful not to just choose the latest, greatest thing out of the pike, because they will be offering sales sometimes on these specific drivelines, but I wouldn't go with anything brand new out of the gate. Back in the day when we were speccing trucks, they came out with the 8LL transmission. It was supposed to be the hottest thing since sliced bread, turned out to be a flop. Turns out now that both Cummins and PACCAR have come out with new manual automated transmissions just this month. I would stay away from both of those transmissions because they're just new on the market. We don't know if they're going to be good or not. The long-term costs of your new diesel engine will include such things as fuel economy, oil change intervals, cost of the oil change, warranty work on the truck and engine work that is not warranted, and warranty coverage if you buy any. Lots of owner-operators these days, to lower their costs, are going to a synthetic blend oil like Shell T5. It lowers oil change costs while still offering your engine excellent protection. Dealership networks. It's important to consider the networks available to you for engine repair or warranty work should you need it. Now let me use this as an example. Freightliner, that handles Detroit, has a huge dealership network, but those dealerships are often full and hard to get into because of the number of Freightliners on the road, and it may not all be for engine work. You're better off to go straight to a Detroit diesel shop to get your engine worked on, and those guys will know those engines even better than the Freightliner dealer. Diesel engines generally come in two different sizes these days. You can get a 13-liter motor or a 15-liter motor. Now remember, the 13-liter will burn less fuel, but there's something else to consider here, and that is that the 15-liter motor weighs roughly 550 pounds more than the 13-liter, and that's just the engine. With the lighter 13-liter engine, you can spec a lighter drivetrain and lighter rears and a lighter transmission, and that can make the difference all sorts of times between getting the load and not getting the load, because shippers like to ship a specific weight. And if your empty weight is too heavy because you've got a great big motor and a great big drivetrain, you may lose the load, and that happens all the time. Extended warranty, and it's particularly important these days to read the fine print on all the warranty paperwork. Warranties are expensive, and you don't want to be buying one if it's not going to do you any good in the long run. The rule to remember, though, is that the engine manufacturers are betting that the engine will outlast the warranty, and you're taking out insurance just in case it doesn't. From personal experience, it's worth it to take the time to consider all these factors to be sure that you get this thing right. If you don't, the results can be devastating. I have a story about a friend of mine back in the day that made the wrong engine choice, and it was devastating for him. And it was back in about 1980. I had a friend, and we called him Logical Bob, and he bought this beautiful cab-over Freightliner off the lot to haul B-trains through the mountains. Now, the truck was beautiful, but it came with an 8V92 Detroit, which had had their issues. They'd been out for a few years. They'd been out since like 74, and this is 1980. So Bob thought he'd be all right. Back then, you only got 100,000 miles warranty on the engine, so Bob hooked up to his B-trains and took off. That engine religiously blew up at about 80,000 miles. Wouldn't even make the 100,000 mile mark. So while he got it repaired, man, 4 or 5 times under warranty, the writing was on the wall. Bob had to trade the truck at a couple years old, lost money on the deal, and it was all because of the choice of the engine. Stay safe, keep the rubber side down, research the type of engine you want to buy, consider it carefully, and I'll see you on the backhaul.